Welcome to Wide Angle. I'm Jamie Rubin. Tonight we offer a rare look inside North Korea, one of the three countries President Bush has called the axis of evil. Last month, negotiations on North Korea's nuclear ambitions ended in acrimony, and now North Korea is actually threatening to test a nuclear weapon. Tonight we'll follow the daily lives and hear from some of the families who live in the world's last totalitarian communist state. And after the film, we'll talk about the future of U.S.-North Korean relations.
North Korea is not Iraq, and I think it would be a grave mistake to assume that it is.
Stay with us.
February 16th, 2003. It is 18 degrees Fahrenheit in North Korea's capital city, Pyongyang. This is Park Hyun-sun. She is a 13-year-old schoolgirl with a passion for gymnastics.
Hello. This is my grandfather. This is my grandmother. This is my mother.
The previous day, across the globe, millions of people marched for peace as war looms in Iraq. North Koreans know that Iraq is another member of what George Bush called the axis of evil. But here, on February 16th, it is a day of celebration.
Today is the most joyous of all holidays because it's the day our general, whom the whole world admires, was born. So the citizens of Pyongyang will go dancing here tonight.
The general is North Korea's ruler, Kim Jong-il, formerly known as the Dear Leader.
Won't you join in?
In 2001, after 4 years of negotiations with the North Korean authorities, a British film crew was allowed to enter North Korea to track down the soccer players who in 1966 in England created the greatest shock in the history of soccer's World Cup. Nothing had been heard from the players since 1966, and even in North Korea they were famous only by name. The resulting film, The Game of Their Lives, has been broadcast 7 times in North Korea and has acquired legendary status there. In 2003, with unparalleled cooperation from the North Korean authorities, the same filmmakers were granted unprecedented access to document the everyday lives of 2 selected families in Pyongyang, North Korea's capital. The filmmakers spent much of 2003 living and filming inside what has been termed the secret state. Throughout the filming, there were guides and interpreters present, but they didn't interfere or seek to censor the material. The crew was free to interview the families about any topic. North Korea is arguably the least visited, least known, and least understood country in the world. In February 2003, we are 5 months away from the 50th anniversary of the end of the Korean War, a war that is known in the West as the Forgotten War, in North Korea as the Victorious Fatherland Liberation War. Hyun-sun's grandfather was her age during the war and experienced the devastation firsthand. This is the family's first ever face-to-face contact with Westerners. Hyun-sun is part of an elite group of schoolgirls who specialize in mass gymnastic performances. The mass games celebrate North Korea's achievements and milestones, such as the leaders' birthdays or important anniversaries. Up to 80,000 gymnasts perform in the floor display. 20,000 school children hold up books of placards creating huge murals. The performance embodies the ideology of the state, the subordination of individual thoughts and actions to the needs of the collective. Gymnasts practice all year round for a minimum of 2 hours a day. It is estimated that around 100 million hours are spent preparing a mass games.
The first time I was in mass gymnastics was in 2001 for the 55th anniversary of the founding of the party. It was the first time I experienced the feeling of participating in an event in the presence of the general. The second event I performed in was for the general's 60th birthday in 2002. The third time was the Arirang Festival. It was the biggest mass gymnastics event I participated in, and the biggest one we've ever done. I've never been happier than those 3 times performing in the presence of the general. Mass gymnastics are really hard. It was so tough at the beginning that after my mother prepared lunch and told me to do my best at the training, I'd go to the children's palace and play hooky all day and tell my mother in the evening that I'd been to gym practice. Later on, my mother and teacher found out about it and I got a scolding. Since then, I've been going regularly. We work on the gymnastics formation once in a while. Basically, we do the physical training and wait until the summer for formation practice. Even on days when the temperature dropped to 4 below zero, we came out to the youth athletics school and did basic exercise and physical training. I used to fall down during training, but I never had a major injury. I used to get bruises on my knees and arms, but they're all gone now.
Although the birthday of Kim Jong-il is a time for relaxation and joy in North Korea, its citizens are acutely aware of escalating tensions with the U.S. In January, there had been daily preparation for the possibility of an American attack.
Sometimes I'd be at home having fun with my mother and grandmother, and then there'd be a blackout exercise or an air raid alarm. The mothers and grandmothers would come down to the shelter and say that it's all because of the Americans. Because we're always doing things like air raids and draping blackout curtains. I think, just as we're taught at school, that we have to hate the Americans endlessly and fight them until the end.
North Korea's population of 22 million is ruled by the Workers' Party of Korea. Membership in the party is open to all of society. The party tells us that there are no special privileges for members, but they must be ready to devote their lives to the party and the leader. Kim Il-sung, known as the Great Leader, led the country from its foundation in 1948 until his death in 1994. North Korea's current leader is his son, Kim Jong-il, known as the General since taking charge of the army in 1991. All adult North Koreans wear lapel badges, given to them by their work units depicting either Kim Il-sung or Kim Jong-il. Socially, North Korea is divided into 3 classes: the workers, represented by the hammer, the peasants, represented by the sickle, and the intellectuals, represented by the calligraphy brush. All 3 classes are officially defined as equals in society.
When my family gets together, my grandfather and father don't say much because they're so focused on their work. Sometimes they live at their work site, so they don't come back home that often.
In 1950, when the Korean War broke out, Hyun-sun's grandfather was just 10 years old, living in a village about 40 miles outside Pyongyang. Although the Korean War is a distant memory in the West, the people of communist North Korea have not been allowed to forget its brutality. An estimated 4 million people, many of them civilians, were killed in the 3 years of fighting, and Korea remains divided to this day.
When I was young, I didn't know if the U.S. imperialists were bad or good. But during our war in the 1950s, I saw the brutal bombing of our country and the atrocities suffered by our people.
The North Koreans regard the 3-year war as U.S.-led, though it was fought under the flag of the United Nations and triggered by North Korea's invasion of the South. The near flattening of the North by American bombers left a deep mark on the North Korean psyche. Both the war and subsequent U.S. Cold War policy towards North Korea have resulted in a profound antagonism to America that has lasted to this day.
I saw things being done that no decent human being could do. I became more enraged about U.S. imperialism, and I came to feel that we have to rid this land of U.S. imperialism completely. At the time of the war, there was nothing left, just piles of ashes. After that, we really tightened our belt and started rebuilding. This was needed in order to completely rebuild our capital. If you build someone a house, they can live their life there. As people live there, they feel their life is more worthwhile and they can work better. They can also put more energy into production. So we have to keep on building and not fall behind other countries.